Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I thought I would piggyback off of this morning's video on the 3 Forgotten X-Men. I know I left Apocalypse out, but that's okay. He's a lot stronger than Magic, Cyclops, and Rogue. But instead, I would rank all of the mutant characters in Marvel Future Fight at Tier 1, at Tier 2, and then at the coveted Tier 3 rank. Now, keep in mind the one thing we're not going to be taking in, well, the two things we're not going to be taking into consideration are whether the characters have their uniforms or not. We're just going to assume they have them. And then the second thing is I'm not going to take into consideration cost, because when you try to calculate all of those things, in addition to how powerful they are, how easy they are to play, how easy it is to rank them up, you know, how much support they provide to the team, it just becomes impossible to rank these characters, and it really just confuses people who are watching. So we're just going to keep it simple, just go for the best. And it's actually pretty interesting to talk about mutants because they take up a pretty large portion of the roster as far as meta characters go, but they also run the gamut of abilities, skills, and sort of effects. So it's pretty interesting to see what Netmarble has been able to do in about 2 years with mutants, because they were only first introduced in May of 2017. So we've had about 2 years without them in the game, and now 2 years with them, but we still only have about 28 of them. Not about, we have 28 mutants out of our current roster of almost 200. So they're pretty small, but quite impactful. So of course, for the first list, let's throw it up here, the Tier 1 mutants. We can't consider any of the native Tier 2 mutants, so goodbye Jean Grey, goodbye Strife, goodbye Cable, goodbye Deadpool, etc. This one is pretty interesting because, for the most part, what you want to look for when judging a Tier 1 character is how much better they get and what they get from their Tier 2 passive. So a really good example is the character, well, you can compare the two mutant combat villains, Sabretooth and Juggernaut. Sabretooth is quite high on this list at number 4. Juggernaut falls down to number 9. Now, if you go check out the meta snapshot or you go check out the tier list, they're pretty close. But the difference is at Tier 1, Sabretooth has his main value, which is his 4-star healing passive, which gives him the healing, and it gives him the all defense down when he takes damage and he's not at full health. Meanwhile, Juggernaut doesn't get his healing until Tier 2. So look at all these stat bonuses that he gets. He gets the heal, he gets the self buffs, he gets the immunity to mind damage. All of that is missing on a Tier 1 Juggernaut. Sure, he has the immunity on his second skill, and he's got the accumulation, he's got unstoppable charge, he's got the decreased damage received on the 4-star passive, and he's got the all defense down. But without the heal, he's much squishier. So taking that into consideration, this is how the Tier 1 list shakes out. It's not really too surprising. You might argue that Archangel could be a little bit higher because of his leadership, and he has the heal as well, and he has the recovery, but his damage is pretty low. Damage is also something to consider. So someone like Iceman, while I don't rate him very highly overall compared to other, mutants, he does have extremely high damage even at Tier 1, although there's not a lot of content for Tier 1 characters to perform in. Like, you can only go up to stage 24 Shadowland, but, Iceman has insane stat values, which make him hit super hard even at Tier 1, and although he does get some nice buffs from his Tier 2 passive, really, he's kind of a vanilla character in the sense that everything he does is just damage. And similar for characters like Jubilee, to a lesser extent Gambit, although Gambit does get more from that Tier 2 passive. It's really the all defense down on his 5th skill and the chain hit damage that makes him better. You could swap him with Psylocke and put Psylocke second if you're not going to consider CTPs, because Psylocke actually might be number 1 if we don't consider CTPs, because she just hits so damn hard with just a mind damage obelisk and a proc. So that is how the list shakes out. It's not really surprising. A lot of speed types down at the bottom. Speed types just struggle at Tier 1 because of the fact that they don't have enough stats. So you've got Rogue, Domino, Nightcrawler, all inhabiting the bottom 5 there because they can't survive. They don't have the healing and they don't have the dodge, and then they don't do any damage either, so they're kind of just in limbo. Moving on to the best mutants Tier 2 list. Now we can include all of the characters. This is a little bit more interesting. 7 more characters get added to the list. We've got a 28 character pool, and yeah, of course, all of the native Tier 2s rush up to the top. We've got Jean Grey, Strife, Cable, Deadpool, Gambit and Weapon Hex and Emma Frost stay there. Bishop jumps up a lot higher at Tier 2 because he gets a lot more value for PvP now, and he can actually compete at level 70 and Gear 25, etc. Sabretooth Juggernaut obviously moves up. Iceman doesn't really gain a lot from his Tier 2. I mean, he gains more damage, but more damage is not necessarily what you need to perform well at tier 2, so he drops, and then everybody else just kind of shakes out into where they are. Again, you can make some arguments for, 16 and 17 should be switched, or 19 and 20, or whatever, but for the most part, these are where they sort of group together. You could also make an argument that without a uniform, and I've said this in the YouTube comments before, Strife is better than Jean Grey. I'll say that again. If you're comparing a tier 2 level 70 Strife and you're comparing a tier 2 level 70 non-uniform, so naked Jean Grey, I think Strife is better. So you definitely need to consider for your own personal value whether you have these uniforms or not. Is Strife 2,500 crystals worse than Jean Grey with her uniform? Yeah, maybe. But if you don't have those uniform, or if you don't have those crystals to invest in the uniform, you might just want to build up Strife, because otherwise they have a pretty similar, or actually they're exactly the same cost. They have the exact same cost. So that's a pretty interesting conversation to have. You could also argue again for Cable and Deadpool whether you get their uniforms or not, but Deadpool really needs that tier 3. He really needs that all defense down stacking on the tier 3 skill to really put out those crazy numbers. And actually even Psylocke might be better than Deadpool, and Gambit might be better than Deadpool at tier 2. But again, it depends on what you need, your play style. If you get hit a lot and you need the healing, Deadpool, of course, becomes a lot better, and he still has a lot of all defense down with 1 and 3, especially if you have his uniform, Paralyze on 4, and you also got the Striker abilities. And then we have the best mutants tier 3, and this is a very, very, very short list, but it's interesting. We only have like 16 or 17 tier 3s now in the game, a very small number, but we have a pretty large number of them as mutants. Whereas if you look at the overall number of mutants, we have, 194 characters, but only 28 of them are mutants. So if you do the math, I just did it really quickly, only 14% of the roster, if you round down, 14% of the roster is made up of mutants, which is a very low number. But then if we take a look at my tier 3s, I've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm missing Black Panther and Spider-Man. So yeah, we have 16 tier 3s, and then we take the number of mutant tier 3s we have, which is 4, and of course that would be 25. So although mutants only make up 14% of the roster, they make up 1/4 of the tier 3 roster, which is kind of a lot. Now, we did get 2 mutant tier 3s this year alone. We got Jean Grey and Wolverine, so that doubled the number that we had from last year. But if you think about it, we got Deadpool in the second half of last year. So in less than a year, we've gotten 4 mutant tier 3s, which is a lot. We got Deadpool in August or September. Then we got Magneto in the end of October, November with Gambit. Then we got Wolverine in March. Then we got Jean Grey in May. So really, really fast injection of tier 3 mutants. And again, part of the reason why, not again, but for the first time, part of the reason why I'm making this list and I want to talk about just mutants is because Namor might be a mutant, so it'll be interesting to see if Namor is a mutant, if he's tier 3, like if he's able to be tier 3, whether he's native tier 2 or not. Where will he fall on this list? Where will he fall possibly at tier 1? Where will he fall definitely at tier 2? And then where will he fall at tier 3 if he's a mutant? If not, it's still a pretty interesting conversation to have. Let me know if you want to see another video like this for a different tribe. The mutants are special because they take different resources and they have different icons. They don't have the star, they have the X's. So they kind of make a niche for themselves. But I do enjoy talking about all tribes in Marvel Future Fight, whether they're Asgardians, Inhumans, etc. Lastly, I will say, Netmarble, if you're watching, and I hope that you are, and thanks for watching, please give us a way to filter by mutant. I would love that. I think everybody else watching would agree with me on that. So sound off in the comments, let me know what you think. Let's have a conversation. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.